Hey everyone, this is attorney Elizabeth Potts Weinstein, and we are doing a Q&A live stream. So if you have any legal questions about your small business, about your LLC, getting a business license, trademarks, copyrights, uh, privacy policies, any of that stuff, this is the time to ask that. Before and actually you can just want to make sure we're all on the same page. Type your question in the chat and then I will answer it. I actually don't have any questions queued up. Nobody submitted questions ahead of time. I have found that lately YouTube is not being the best at pushing out live stream information about live streams. When I post it and then it gets shared, only a couple hundred people see it. And because you can see that in the analytics, as opposed to like videos, it gets pushed out a lot more. So yeah, we'll see. Hopefully, people will ask questions and I can answer them and help you guys out. And people actually learned about this, and YouTube is pushing it out to you. Before I get into it, one thing I wanted to do is show you my website where you can sign up for services because I only accept clients during limited times during the year because I'm kind of running at capacity all the time. So right now is one of those times. So I'm going to post this in the chat in case everybody happens to be interested. Obviously, you do not need to purchase anything from me. You can totally just ask your questions here in this live stream to get answers. But this is good if you want an attorney to help you with your trademark, set up your California LLC, or if you want to do a one-on-one phone call with me because maybe we want to have more privacy to ask your questions, or it kind of needs to be more of a long discussion. So that's where you can go to find out more information about that. All right. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat. I'm actually going to also look at my phone. Sometimes it's easier for me to see the chat, not on the software that I'm using to stream. So it's easier if I can look on another place. So let me make sure no one's posting anything somewhere else that I can't see there. Okay. So good questions that can be answered on a live stream would be things about, starting up your business, forming your LLC. Should you be a sole proprietorship or an LLC? Issues that you're running into when you're starting your business, um, decisions that you have to make that you want someone to give feedback on. So let me know what questions you have and I'll go ahead and answer them. And you actually need to ask the questions because I won't stay on forever. So be brave and post your questions in the chat. Also, if you have any ideas of topics that you'd like me to cover in a future video, you can feel free to share that. I mean, you can share that in a comment anytime, but you can also share that in the chat because it's always helpful to hear, what kind of tutorials people want that would be helpful for them, questions that you have that kind of wouldn't really be answered on a live stream. It's something that's more extensive where you need a tutorial to walk you through it. It seems like that those are the tutorial videos are the ones that people find the most helpful. So I have some of them. I have one tutorial that's going to come up. I think it'll be up in 2 weeks. I haven't even edited it yet, but it's on how to terminate or shut down your LLC in California because the California came out with their new system for online filing, and in many ways, it's so much better than the old system. However, it is kind of odd. It's hard to find things sometimes. It's much better to have an online system because it's reduces the likelihood that you're gonna mess something up because the system kinda catches things, but they haven't fully tested everything. So, um hi, Verna. Thanks for stopping by and saying hi. I'm really glad the videos were helpful. Okay, so Caesar asked, let me see. You got your EIN in last year and your LLC this month. You have to contact the IRS to change your company name to include the LLC. Okay, so I'm assuming when you originally got your EIN last year, for your like that first version of your business, it was for you as a sole proprietorship or for your business as a partnership, but most probably a sole proprietorship. Now that you have an LLC, it actually needs a new EIN. You just can do the same way you got the EIN the first time. You can go to the IRS's website. I'll actually put the link in here because I have it up all the time because I go on there so often. It's very easy for me to find. And here's the link for the EIN. You want to do that. An EIN is like a social security number, the tax ID number. So a sole proprietorship is a different person. It's a different legal entity than an LLC. Even though it's the same business, right? You're running the same business. It's a different legal entity, like it's a different person. So it needs its own EIN. So you won't really contact the IRS to switch it over. What you do is you get a new EIN. You're kind of starting over in that sense. There are some things you can switch, but not the EIN part. Okay. So Kat asks, I have a successful mobile grooming business in the past in California, which is set up legally as sole proprietorship. Yeah. You don't own a home. Um, should you have an LLC or sole proprietorship? So, assuming for a mobile grooming business, I'm assuming you don't have any employees. And if you have employees, that's one of the times where I say, yes, get an LLC or corporation or something, because that introduces a lot of liability because people who work for you could do some bizarre thing. You can have insurance that helps, but it's not going to solve everything. Yeah, if you don't own a home, you don't have, a bunch of assets or something like that. We're not super worried about kind of random people suing you to try to get at your rich person money, kind of that problem that wealthy people have. So the risk that you have, a lot of it can be dealt with insurance. So as a sole proprietor, you want to get insurance to cover you for liability insurance. If you have any kind of mobile grooming business, that's going to be insurance to cover you driving, and it's going to have insurance for things happening right there. So you definitely want to have liability insurance. You also want property insurance to cover your equipment and things like that in the vehicle that you're using. And then you want to have good agreements with the people you're doing the work for, like disclosures and waivers and things that they sign. That will help reduce a lot of the risk. I think the one thing I think about for a mobile grooming business, I'm assuming this is for pets, because what else would it be for? I don't know. Is that there are people who are weird about their pets. So in the same way when you deal with children, like people can be extra litigious about pets and children and things that they are very emotional about. So you definitely need to have very good waivers and things for them to sign but you definitely want to have insurance. Maybe you want to have an LLC to also be another thing to help cover the risk. I think the big issue is that LLCs are expensive as far as paying the $800 a year franchise fee in California. And obviously it's a bit of paperwork to set up. So you have to weigh the pluses and minuses and who the people are that you're helping, and are they, litigious kind of people or not. Okay. Oh yes, these are. So do you have to make a new payroll tax ID with EDD? I haven't looked that up long enough. So EDD, um, changing legal entity payroll. Let's see if I can find the answer to that question. I'm thinking that sometimes you can change over accounts, like your EDD account can be changed to a new owner kind of. And sometimes some government agencies make you set up a new thing. Selling your business. So I'm looking at the EDD's website. What they say is if you sell your business, you close out your EDD account and you set up a new one. In a lot of ways, when you convert a sole proprietorship to an LLC or a corporation or whatever, you're selling your sole proprietorship business to the LLC in return for the membership of stock or for the LLC or corporation. So it might be the same as that, as it'd be like selling your business where you're changing over the owner. Let me see if I can find anything else. I'm gonna check that out. No, I don't want to. I want to stay on the page. Occasionally you can switch it over, but I find that with business licenses in California, you have to close it and set up a new one. EIN have to set up a new one. There's a lot of things where you're effectively setting up a new business and then you have to switch everything over. For doing that, typically what clients do for converting sole proprietorship to an LLC is we pick a date and then we set up all the things and then we have a day where everything switches over, just like if you sold a business to a new person. All right, let me get back to the streaming thing. Okay. Okay, so I'm I get the LLC covers S corp, so my company will present as S corp. So you can have a business that is an LLC that is taxed as an S corporation. So um, the idea one of the reasons we do that is because LLCs have a bit less paperwork with corporations that are taxed as an S corp. You have to do annual minutes and like all these things that people like forget to do, and then you're not honoring the corporate formality. So with the LLC, it's a bit more uh, simple to you don't have as many pieces of paperwork to do. So if you have an LLC that's taxed as an S corp, you have an LLC. That's the legal entity of it. The S corp, it's actually kind of unfortunate that we call it S corp because it's not a corporation. It's confusing for everybody, but it's one of those things because it's been around for a long, long time. So we're using kind of old-fashioned ways to describe things that don't that's not how it works in reality. So you have an LLC is the legal entity, so it'll be, blah 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 LLC. And then the S corp tax stuff, your people who buy stuff from you don't even know about that. That's just for like literally filing the forms with the state, and that's filing forms with the federal government. That's where you're doing the S corp things. So hopefully that makes sense. It is awkward in trying to understand it because it does these all these rules are like LLCs are kind of new. They're only around for a couple decades, which in the world of law is very new. And so they're trying to take LLCs and squish them into old rules and old wording that doesn't really make sense in how we do things nowadays. You're welcome, Caesar. So let me just make sure I didn't miss anything else. Okay, yeah. So I think I got all those questions that have been asked so far. Um, you don't have any signal? Yeah, I don't. I hopefully. Let me know if anybody can't hear me. It looks like my stream is working, but let me see. Yeah, so let me know if you guys have any other questions. Um, and then if I miss anything, you can always post it in the comments after the stream is done, and then I can answer it later, just via text. It can be nice to talk through something. Okay, I'll wait a little bit more, see if people have any other questions. Look on here and see if I can see anything else in here. I always have my live stream open also on my phone because sometimes things will show up in here and not in there. Do I have recommendations on good business insurance? So I can tell you who I'm actually using. So I first started out with my business many, many years ago. I had a sole proprietorship. And what I did was I just got insurance from State Farm. State Farm is where my regular insurance is from, for my renter's insurance and all that stuff. So I got my business insurance from State Farm for my sole proprietorship. That works really good for like if you just have a sole proprietorship, they'll add it on to your other insurance and it makes it simple because it's just one place. But once you form an LLC or corporation, like I'm not saying they don't do that at all, but it's kind of more awkward. I found it much easier to just go with pure business insurance. You can get a recommendation from a friend or colleague who's around. I actually switched over. Let me find the link. I switched over to Next Insurance, which is, advertised me on Instagram, I think is how I found them. Um, and I don't know if they're good in the sense of submitting claims because I haven't had any claims to submit since I switched over to them. So I don't know. However, it was incredibly easy to set up. One of the things that you want to look at with insurance is want to make sure you get all the things that you actually need. And that can be the most complicated thing to figure out. They have like all these on their website. They have a whole bunch of little, questionnaires and things to lead you through what kind of insurance you need. And that's going to be the biggest thing. So for a lot of people, they have a policy called a business owner's policy. And that's a good place to start because it has a bunch of the different types of insurance that most people need who have a small business. So property damage, insurance to your physical property. Obviously, if someone slips and falls at your business, I mean, I work from home, so no one's going to be doing that. But that's the idea. They have liability insurance, that kind of liability insurance. There's going to be a bunch of insurances that uh you'll have the option of adding on. Like I have professional liability insurance as a lawyer, but that's through a completely different company because lawyer professional liability insurance for the legal advice I give, that's done at certain companies and not at kind of general business insurance. However, if you're like a consultant, you can add that on to that policy. Uh, they tend specialties like medical insurance and attorney insurance, malpractice insurance tends to be very separate. You also, if you have a car, you want to make sure that you use it for business. You want to make sure that the car has business insurance because one of the big issues that can happen is that your insurance companies will fight because it's like you use your laptop for work, you use a laptop for personal, something happens to the laptop, and then your business insurance company and your personal insurance company both says the other one should you know pay for it. So you want to make sure that whatever you're doing is covered by one of the insurances and it's not debatable. um no employees agreements disclosure plan to sign. Yes, private. I'm reading one of the chat submissions if you don't realize that. No problem. Yeah. So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, you have really good stuff for people to sign. It's you, like one of the things is if you have a sole proprietorship and you're the one personally doing the work, you're providing services, people, you're gonna you have a way to manage a lot of the drama that could potentially happen, because you decide if you're going to take someone as a client, you have them sign things, you're there physically doing it. You can hopefully make sure you don't do a terrible job. Where people run into problems is if you're selling products on the internet or something, like who knows who's buying that? They buy it without you even being involved, right? If have employees doing things like if you have a physical business, anyone who has a physical business where people like come in and walk around, you're not controlling who kind of comes in there and walks around. So there's a potential extra liability there for someone purposefully slipping and falling and suing you. So, yeah. So State Farm for your first business, that was good. I mean, that's State Farm is who I have for my personal insurance. I just found that to be awkward when I formed a corporation because my law firm is a professional corporation, and is taxed as an S corp. Law firms actually in the California cannot be LLCs. Otherwise, I would have an LLC. If you have health channel on YouTube with an appropriate disclaimer, but someone sues you anyway saying they follow your advice. Oh yeah, had an injury. What kind of insurance you need? So that would probably be, it would be like errors and omissions insurance. It's kind of a professional liability insurance. Errors and omissions insurance and professional liability are almost the same thing. The idea is it's liability for alleged mistakes that you make is doing the services, talking, whatever it is that you're doing. Professional liability tends to be for people who have like professions like lawyers and doctors and stuff. But also consultants, sometimes it's called that. Errors and omissions is for anything that doesn't fit into the professional liability. But that's usually what you're talking about there is the liability for your actions being put allegedly wrong. And then one of the things to think about too with insurance is you're not just paying for the damages if someone sues you and you lose. If you actually harm someone and then you have to pay them $100,000, the insurance pays for that. You're also the insurance is also paying for the lawyer to defend you in the lawsuit. So hopefully you're not going to do anything bad. But still, someone could be delusional or a mean person or whatever and sue you completely wrongly. You still have to defend against that, and lawyers are expensive. Especially for litigation, kind of is difficult to manage financially. So the insurance company pays for that. And so thinking about that when you're looking at your insurance and deciding how much insurance should I get, the more money the insurance company has to potentially lose, the better of a lawyer they're going to hire. Now, you don't necessarily want to get, $100 million of insurance because like it just be prohibitively expensive. But think about that when you're looking at what the damages are, the more and the limits are in the policy is the higher the limit is, the fancier a lawyer, and better theoretically a lawyer insurance company is going to pay for to defend that lawsuit because they have more money on the line. So just something to think about. When I look at insurance and I'm pricing it for myself, it really you'll see kind of there'll be price breaks for things, and I try to just do what's the most reasonable. I tend to put fairly high deductibles on my insurance because I, knock on wood, don't get sued very often. So it just makes sense to self-insure a fair amount of that for my business stuff. Can I touch on trademark and copyrights? If you have questions about trademarks and copyrights, you can go ahead and post them in there, something specific. It's kind of too broad to, I don't know what you exactly want me to talk about. I mean, generally speaking, I would recommend that every business look at whether or not you should register a trademark and think about whether or not you need to register copyrights, but every business does not need to register trademarks. You don't, may not actually have something that's really trademarkable. And it is not a guarantee if you try to register, if you apply to register a trademark in the United States. So you want to look at, is this even trademarkable? You want to do a search, you want to see what else is out there. You definitely want to do a search for any brand that you're trying to put together because you don't want to be infringing somebody else's trademark. But whether or not you actually file one, it really depends on the situation. Patent attorneys. So for patent attorneys, you want to look for someone who knows about that technology. So there are people that I refer people to, but it really depends upon the technology. So because the patent attorney has to know both about patent law and about that tech. So you're going to have a different patent attorney for a patent on, software thing versus someone who does biotech, right? Completely different areas. Because typically well, actually not typically, always, when you're a patent attorney, I actually am a licensed patent attorney. I don't do that stuff anymore, but I did back in the day. You have to have some kind of science degree. It could be engineering, it could be biology, some kind of scientific degree before you, and then you also and you have to pass the patent bar. There are actually people who are patent agents who have the degree and then they pass the patent bar, but they're not lawyers. Typically they work with lawyers, and the idea is they're like the tech heavyweight. A lot of times they have master's degrees or PhDs. The patent bar is incredibly hard. It was harder than the California State Bar. It's actually, I think, the hardest test I've ever taken. So it's very, very technical. Yeah, so a name for a screenplay, names of screenplays and names of books and names of films is actually a very difficult one because the name of a single book, movie, anything like that is not trademarkable because it does not identify the source of a product or service unless it's like a series. So if you have, do I have a series in here? Oh yeah, I do. Okay. So I'm actually learning French. So this is a book on language hacking French. And this guy, Benny Lewis, he has Fluent in 3 Months, language hacking. He has a whole series of language hacking books, language hacking French, language hacking Spanish. I don't remember how many there are. So he could trademark that language hacking idea, maybe. I don't know if it's actually a good trademark, but like it's possible to do because he has a series of books. However, if you just have one book or one movie or one thing, it isn't trademarkable because it's an individual. I actually don't agree with that rule. It's just they made that rule. So, and we have to deal with that. So a TV series, it can be like, it depends on if it's like if it's just one series versus like multiple thing, like a TV series is still one entity is what I'm trying to say. It's a kind of a difficult issue because it depends on how you're going to be presenting it. However, the work that you're creating is protected by copyright law. Some titles might actually be created. They have to have enough of a creative aspect by themselves. So like most titles are not that because they're too short, but they're also just not, they don't have enough in them to be an artistic work. It'd be the whole work, the whole, screenplay or whatever it is. So yeah, I think you definitely want to think about, for protecting your copyright in your work, you can register the copyrighted work with the Copyright Office. Protecting an idea, but don't really want to take the idea before it's completed. Yeah. So If you have an idea and you don't want anyone to take it before it's completed, that could be something that's protected under patent law if it's also meets the other requirements of patent law. You can also protect things under trade secret law. Trade secret law is where you literally are keeping things secret, and then the only people who have access to it are people who signed an NDA. And the nice thing about trade secret is when you file something in a patent application, you only get protection for a certain period of time and a couple decades, 20 years. And then I mean, it's a little more complicated than that because there's some exceptions, but think of it as 20 years. And then also it's public is when it's after the application is published. And no one can infringe it during that time. But as soon as the 20 years expire, then anyone can use it. It's generic, right? It's how you get generic medicines and things. Versus a trade secret, if you always keep something a trade secret, it's literally a secret forever because anyone who has exposure to it has to sign an NDA first, and you can sue them if they infringe the NDA. That is why you don't know the recipe for Coca-Cola, because Coca-Cola is a trade secret. Allegedly, only 2 people know the recipe for Coca-Cola. I don't actually know if that's true. That's like the mythology of Coca-Cola, but the idea is with recipes and things like that, if you filed it as a patent, it would eventually be out there for anyone to use because it'd be generic, but as a trade secret, it can be secret for infinite time. So for copyright stuff, you go to copy. Let me find the link and put it in here. You go to the U.S. Copyright Office, which I'm going to put the. Or now I forgot where my live stream thing is going. Here's copyright, link to Copyright Gov. My clients typically just do their copyright stuff themselves. You can go there and use a whole bunch of educational information they have on there. And then you can also click on registration and it has register your work. And it has, you registered, it has like a online filing system to register. It's not super expensive at all. For patents, then it's the same idea. You go to the patent office, which is the same place as the trademark office, uspto.gov, and you can start looking there. Okay, so if said health channel was an asset of your LLC, do you get insurance for yourself or the LLC? Oh, so that's a good question. So how it works is the insurance is for the LLC, but it will list people whose actions are covered by the errors and omissions insurance. The idea is when you're doing stuff for your LLC or corporation, you're acting kind of like an employee is acting, as long as you're within the scope of the work that you do for that business. Then your actions, the LLC is liable for your actions. So the insurance is for the LLC, and then the individual people's actions are under them. So that's what you do. The one exception are for certain kinds of professions like lawyers and doctors. There might be other professions I have to look things up, but typically you're going to be people who are licensed under certain codes with the state. Then they are required to get their own insurance for themselves. So my business liability, I have business liability for my business, but I have malpractice insurance, which is like professional liability insurance for myself, because as a lawyer, I'm required to do that. How it works is my law firm, my corporation is only I'm personally liable for, I think, $25,000 of damages. And then my corporation takes over. So I have to have insurance for that part. That's just because of a special with lawyers. And I wouldn't be surprised special rules with, doctors and a lot of other kinds of professions where you have a license and you can theoretically harm people a lot. So one of the things too with registering an idea, patenting an idea, is an idea has to be reduced to practice. So I can't file a patent application for beaming, like Star Trek beaming, where you can beam people, and dematerialize them, materialize them somewhere else, because I don't know how to make that, and I can't have drawings that make that. It's purely an idea. I mean, it's not my idea, obviously. So things like that can't be patented until someone who is skilled of the art can look at your drawings and instructions and reduce it to practice and make the thing. So you don't actually have to make the thing, but the drawings you make and the instructions, someone of skill in the art would be able to make it. Okay. Is an EIN required for an LLC that is just a holding company? So if you have an EIN that is a um where you're a sole owner. Yeah, I think let me actually check this for LLC EIN one owner. Um yeah, so it depends on the state because some states will still want you to have an EIN, and you also may need the EIN for your business license and all this kind of stuff. The IRS will not require an EIN for your federal taxes with an LLC that's only owned by one person because you just use your social security number. Now, in reality, since getting an EIN is free, I would just get an EIN because then you have it and then you need it whenever something comes up. And then you don't have to give your personal social security number out to people. I mean, the IRS already has it, but like there may come times where you have to give someone your EIN and you don't want to necessarily give them your social security number. So since it's free, you might as well just go ahead and do it. Um, yeah, after you have your LLC and your EIN, what is the next step? So if you're going to have your LLC taxed as an S corporation, you would file those forms. But let's assume you're not going to do that. Um, In California, the next thing you would do is file your statement of information, which is the same place that you filed your LLC. Other states have a similar thing. They have like an annual report or something like that, which is just something where you pay a little bit more money again, and you're telling them, typically updating them on your address and who's the owner and this kind of stuff, who's the manager and things. Um, After you do any of those filings, then the next thing I look at is business license, DBAs, if you need to do any DBAs, because that takes a while. And with the business license, you might need some kind of permit. Like, let's say you work from home. In some places, you need a home occupation permit. So that's the next step that I look at. And then and mostly I do the business license and DBAs next because they take a while to do because some government has to like decide about something once you file those. After that, you want to make sure you get your operating agreement for your LLC. This is just like a contract with yourself. It's like a partnership agreement, except it's the LLC's operating agreement. Like all the members, all the owners are agreeing to the rules of the LLC. You're not required to do this legally, but it's a good idea to create a paper trail. And there are a lot of forms that you can see. Do I charge to set up trademarks? Yes. So if you scroll up to the top of the chat, I have the link to my website in I'm right now open to clients, to taking new clients for trademarks. And you can see the fees on there and all that stuff. In the trademark office, you can file it directly with them. Um, Regardless whether you hire a lawyer or not, you still have to pay filing fees, and it's either $250 a class or $350 a class, depending on if you use the generic classes that they have or if you make up your own. Most people can use theirs. Um, as a nurse starting a business that is not related to the health field, it's okay to form a sole proprietorship. I think that if you're starting some kind of side gig that is not even remotely health related, and it's you're selling artistic things that you made on Etsy, whatever, it's something completely unrelated, then a sole proprietorship can be a great way to get started because it's super easy in the sense that you literally just start doing business and you have a sole proprietorship. You don't have to file anything to create it, and you don't have to file extra taxes. It just goes in your own taxes. It's very simple. I think, what you're looking at, you want to make sure you have insurance, make sure you have contracts, all that other kind of stuff. But for a lot of people, the best way to start a business as an individual is starting with a sole proprietorship, and then you convert later to an LLC whenever it gets bigger, whenever you want to bring in another owner, whenever you want tax benefits, things like that. Oh, how long does it take me when I do trademarks? So if someone signed up for it today, it, depends on how long it takes to have back and forth and get decisions. It might take a couple weeks to get things on file just because you have to have a lot of things decided to get the trademark on file. Assuming we decide to actually go forward, it will take a incredibly long time before the trademark office decides. So if I file a trademark today, let's just say, the trademark office will not get back anything to me for at least 6 months, but it's actually looking more like 9 months. Then they'll say yes or no, or they'll say we need to change something. Is what they do. They either say yes, we need to change something. If they say yes, it's still going to be another probably 4 or more months before the trademark is actually issued. So right now, it's like a year or more before you would actually have a trademark if it was filed today. If they say, no, we need to change something, then obviously that just adds more and more months. The trademark office is incredibly far behind. So you have to just plan that's going to be at least a year or a year and a half or 2 years before you have your trademark done. And the only time you can speed that up really is if someone is already infringing your trademark. And so there are ways to expedite it, but there has to be a reason. You can't just expedite it by paying more money by it in and of itself. Let's see. What trademark is canvas wall art? So, typically, let me bring up when you look for the trademark class, you are usually looking in a combination of what is the thing, we're talking about art, wall art, but also what is it made of? They're really into what is the physicality of it. Like, is it canvas, fabric? Is it metal? That kind of thing. So let's do, um, I'm just going to put in canvas wall art first just to see, because you never know, someone might have actually created a class for that. I don't see anything that's canvas wall art. Let me just put in wall art. Ah, so there is a class of wall hangings of textile featuring mural art. There's a different class of wall hangings out of textile. So I don't know I'm going to put wall hangings. Okay, so textile wall hangings. That's probably what we're talking about here. That is class 24. I'm going to put that in here. 24. That is a class, textile wall hangings. That's probably what it is. Because there's going to be a different class if it's something made of a different material. Not made of textile is one of them, and it could be metal, other things, other materials. So whenever you're doing trademarks, you want to look at what is the stuff for physical things. What is the stuff physically made of? Is it metal or glass or textiles or whatever? And then what is it doing? It's being wall art. Is it protection on the day submitted? Okay, so if you submit a trademark application today, and let's say it actually eventually is granted. Okay, it's granted a year from now or whatever it is. It's backdated to either the day you filed or the date you first used it in commerce by making a sale of something, whichever one is first. So let's say you filed it today, but you actually started selling this product or service 3 months ago. That's going to be your date because you're going to put that down as your date of first sale. But let's say you filed it today and you haven't made any sales yet, and you make a sale 3 months from now, then today is going to be your date. Now, while it is pending, if someone else files also a trademark application for the exact same thing, then it would create a conflict in the trademark office. And what happens is that your first date has dibs, but then the other trademark is just kind of like in a holding pattern, waiting to see if yours issues. And if yours doesn't issue, then they move forward. And if yours does issue, then they get a notice that theirs is being denied because of yours. That's the short version of it. It can actually be a little bit more complicated than that, but because it really does depend on how close they are and things. But yes, you do get protections once you know whether or not it issues. You can get that back date. Okay, maybe we'll go back and make sure I haven't missed anything. Okay. Yeah, so if you guys have any other questions, you can go ahead and put it in there. I'm going to hit the chat on my phone just to make sure I didn't miss something, because sometimes things show up on my phone and not in the system. If you move to Florida from California, how long can you keep your LLC in California? Do you have to open a bank account in Florida? You could keep it in California forever. The issue is that if you move to Florida and you actually have enough nexus in Florida, not just you physically living there, but you're actually doing business in Florida, you're servicing Florida clients, you're people buying products for you, have a store, whatever, then you have to register as a foreign LLC in Florida. So the issue is that people can end up having to be in both states, and it's really annoying. But if you don't have any contacts, if it's just you as the owner live there and there's nothing, you're not actually doing business there, then you can leave it in California forever. Do you have to open a bank account in Florida? No, they don't really. Nobody cares where you have a bank account. The only time it ever comes up about bank accounts is you do have to tell sometimes when you're filing like for a business license, you have to tell them what bank you're using. You don't give them your account number, but you tell them what bank you're using. I actually don't know why they do that, but that does come up sometimes. I think it's just they want to be able to track you. Um, it might come also up for some employment things. Okay. Let's see. All right. Should you have a DBA for a YouTube channel name? So if you're what it comes down to is if you're doing business under that name, that's not your legal name. So if you have a YouTube channel and you don't have the legal name of your business anywhere around it, that like if your business is LLC or your own legal name or whatever is the legal name of your business, then you want a DBA because the idea is you want to tie that channel name, assuming the channel is actually doing business, it's monetized in some way. If it's not monetized, then it's not a business yet. But assuming it's monetized, you want it to be monetized in some way, shape, or form. You want to put a connection between that DBA and the legal name of the business. And the alternative, you could actually just put the legal name of the business in, the channel description and all that, in the video descriptions and things like that. And then I wouldn't bother filing a DBA. You also want to get a DBA if you want that DBA's name on the bank account, so people can write you a check. But I mean, I don't know. Is anyone writing checks? Like, I don't see that very often. The other reason is if you want that name on your merchant account for people to use their credit card. So when on their credit card statement, it will show up. But that might not be true for a YouTube channel. So it's up to you if you want to put the legal name of your business on the YouTube channel or not. And let's say you do personal training at your house and online and have an LLC next insurance. Do I need to let my homeowner's insurance know what I'm doing here? So occasionally the homeowners, and I've actually had this happen, your homeowner's insurance will find out you have a business out of your home and they'll want you to send them proof of your business insurance. So I had that happen to me a long time ago, 15, 20 years ago. I can't remember what it was. And all I had to do was send them the thing from my business insurance that says I have insurance to my homeowner's insurance, and they were fine. They were going to cancel me if I didn't, but they were fine with that. That's all they wanted. I haven't had, it happened. State Farm hasn't done it. That was, I think, Allstate that did that. State Farm knows that I have business insurance because I've talked to them about it, but like they've never requested that I send that to them. Okay. Would I set up a LLC for a YouTube channel? So for that I would look at a YouTube channel as what are you actually doing as far as the business part of it? If the only way it's monetized is ads, that you're not selling services, you're not selling merchandise, you're not having people go somewhere and buy your course, there's no other way it's being monetized. Then the reason I would get an LLC is if I want to have it be taxed as an S corp and it will give me tax benefits. And typically that's not going to kick in until you're making high five figures, if not six figures. Then the tax benefits of having an LLC taxed as an S corp will matter. You'll save a lot of money. And the reason is that you can do is pay yourself a salary that has all the normal things taken out of your salary. And then you can have some of the money be paid to you as the owner of the business in distributions, and you don't have to pay self-employment tax on that. You don't have to pay FICAs or any of that stuff on that. So it can save you a lot of money in taxes. Also, there's different, like when you have an LLC taxed as an S corp, there's other deductions that are different than sole proprietorships. Now, some of that has changed in the last couple of years because of the tax changes, and you really have to run the numbers for your particular situation and ask your tax person, assuming you have a tax person, to run those numbers for you and see which one would save you money. Because one of the things is once you form an LLC, you have if you're in California, you have $800 of your franchise fee. If you're in other states, you're still going to have some annual fee. It might be only $100, but something. And then you're going to have the paperwork involved. If you have an LLC taxed as an S corp, someone has to file an S corp tax return. Either you're going to have to do it yourself, which is a bit complicated for a lot of people because there's no TurboTax for it, or you have to hire someone to do that. That's going to be, $500 a year, $1,200 a year, some amount of money you're paying them to file that tax return. So You have to budget in a couple grand. Really, typically, it's going to need to save you at least $2,000 a year for it to make sense because of all the overhead. So yeah, like for me, this is my main YouTube channel. It's part of my law firm, so it's under my corporation. So that's fine. I have another YouTube channel that is a baby channel that has like, I don't know, 15 subscribers. It's just a sole proprietorship right now, technically, but it's not even really a business. It earns no money. It's not monetized. Nothing has happened to it yet. Whenever, if and when it becomes a point where it's actually monetized and I'm making money from it, I eventually will form an LLC to own it, but not in the beginning because the $800 a year franchise fee. It just won't make, I have to make enough money for it to make sense. That channel is in the, it's an off-grid channel. So it's like in that travel, van life, off-grid homesteading field. I'm not super worried about people suing me for anything I'm talking about. So there it's going to be more about tax savings and things, but it also a little bit about asset protection too, but I'm not worried about it right now because you do have to factor in those costs. Now, actually, when I do form it, I probably won't be living here in California physically. My law firm business will still be here, but I'll be traveling. So I may form it in a different state that doesn't have the $800 a year franchise fee. Okay, let's see. Is there anything else that I missed? Yeah, so if you have any other questions, you can go ahead and post them now. Yeah, I mean, for most people who have a YouTube channel, I'd wait until you are somehow making money. So it could be being monetized, but it could also be selling services. It could be selling products, whatever, being sponsors. There's some kind of monetization going on. The only time I might do it otherwise is if you personally have a lot of assets. So you want to protect yourself from, people who are just suing rich people, or you are doing something that people get sued a lot for. That's something very controversial, So, and that just depends on the kind of topics you're talking about. Hey, hi, enhanced simplicity. I hope you're having a good day too. Okay, so when do you form an LLC for your YouTube channel? How do you make the LLC the owner of the channel? Oh, that's actually a really good question because there is an awkwardness of social media where how do you make your thing, this website, this YouTube channel, this Twitter account, whatever, be owned by the LLC? So what you want to do first, you want to have on the channel somewhere. I would put it in the descriptions of the videos. You know how you have a lot of big, huge room in the description of the videos. And I also put it in the about section that, the name of your LLC, whatever it is. You want it to disclose to people that this is an LLC doing this business versus a sole proprietorship or whatever they might assume it is. Then if you're converting a sole proprietorship to an LLC, you want to have an agreement between you, the human person who is a sole proprietor, and the LLC, which you will also sign that side of the agreement, but it's you as the owner of the LLC, where you're transferring all the assets into it. This is just to provide a paper trail. It's like weird because you're signing a contract where you're signing it for both sides, but we're creating a paper trail to show that everything is in this LLC. You also want to go back to if the YouTube channel is monetized, you have to go back and change your tax forms that you submitted to Google in it's not on YouTube. It's like, what is it in Google AdSense or whatever it is, where you have to submit your tax forms. You have to change those tax forms. So it's the LLC's tax forms, the LLC's EIN that's on there instead of your personal tax forms that you submitted. And then you'll probably change the bank account too on there. But that could be another place where you could forget. And then they're going to give you tax forms for you personally. And it should be the LLC getting the tax forms, and it's messy. So you want to make sure all that's switched out on the back end too. For the strongest names protected, what would be the greatest tips? So with trademarks, one of the things to think about is that what makes a good trademark is the opposite of what is a easy to remember good keyword kind of thing. So if something is the generic description for something, if something is very obvious, it's descriptive of what you're doing for people, providing, that makes it really easy to find you in search, but it's a terrible trademark. Trademarks are something that's arbitrary. So Amazon.com which originally was a bookstore and now is a store for everything. That's an arbitrary word for a store. Versus my law firm's name is EPW Small Business Law. That's a terrible trademark because small business law is just like what I do. And I purposely made that choice as opposed to. So that's one thing that's the number one thing to think about is it may be a better business decision to not worry about the trademark. It depends on what you're doing, what your plans are. Going along with that too is that you're looking at what you want your business, like what's the goal for your business? Is your goal for your business to sell it? Is your goal for your business to license out this stuff to others to use? Then you may need a registered trademark because it's one of the assets to sell. If you want to get venture capital investments, you need to show them assets that you have. But if this is just the business you're going to run, it may not be as important to have registered trademarks because there is some cachet with people to have a registered trademark, but your average person, that's not why they're making a decision to do business with you. They just want to know, do you have good services? Do you have good products? Do you have good information or whatever it is? So that's the other big thing I think about is what is your goal for this business, and is having a trademark important for that? The other big thing is not just if you're going to sell the business, but also if you're going to license out the stuff. So I have like life coaches who I know who have created their certification program for other life coaches. And then those life coaches are certified, blah, blah, blah coaches. That is trademarked. That's the thing they're licensing. So let me go back to I know LLC must do tax every 3 months. My case, LLC covers S Corp, must the tax be every 3 months. So when you have any business, actually, sole proprietor, LLC, Texas S Corp Corporation, you have to do quarterly tax payments. That's an estimated tax payment for what your taxes will be at the end of the year. That's true for your sole proprietor too. Now, it's a little bit different if you're an S Corp or where you're an employee, because if you're an employee of your LLC, or which is taxed as an S Corp, then a lot of the profits that are getting paid to you is in your salary. And so taxes are already being paid like every week or every month or however often you do your payroll. But for on the profits of the business, that has to be done every quarter. And so that's true for your sole proprietorship, LLC, partnership, S Corp, whatever it is. You have to do estimated payments on the estimated quarterly payments. Now, there's some exceptions to that on exactly how much they need to be and all that kind of stuff. And that's like really getting into the details, and it really depends on your personal situation. But yes, you want to do those quarterly payments regardless of the kind of business entity you have on profits. So you don't get in trouble in April when you calculate things out and you owe a lot and have to pay penalties and everything. I actually know a lawyer who had her business take off, and she had 1 year where she all of a sudden was making 7 figures. Her business made 7 figures, and she owed a huge tax bill come April. And she had to actually get a loan to pay that because she didn't do the quarterlies and she just wasn't keeping track of it. And she's a lawyer, so you want to think about if you have a thing in your business where it's like taking off all of a sudden, you have to go back and recalculate how you do all your tax things, how you do your quarterlies, tax deposits, because estimated tax payments, because you may be completely off and you'll end up with a big penalty come next year. Okay, so we're getting close to the top of the hour. At the top of the hour, I'm going to stop. So if you have any other questions that you want me to answer, go ahead and put them in there. Once we get to the top of the hour, then I will sign off. I'm really excited. We've got a lot of really great questions today. So anybody who's even listening to this later is going to get a lot of really good information about all kinds of different topics. And then don't forget, I am open up to new clients right now for quick calls, trademarks, and California LLCs. The link is at the very top of the chat, and you can also link to my website is in the description of this video. I'm only going to be open up to new clients at the most until the end of July, and right now it's in early June. I might shut down earlier if I get enough people where I'm like full. It's just to the point of where I'm full of I'm at capacity. I don't think it's gonna happen today or tomorrow or anything like that, but, the most it's gonna be the end of July, so if you're interested in that, and especially it's good for quick calls, which is 15 or 30-minute appointments just to get questions answered about, whatever, very similar to this, except it's private, and we can go back and forth, and we're actually talking. I do those calls by Google Meet or by you can also do them by Zoom if you prefer that. That's the au Google Meet is the automatic one, or by telephone, or we can do it by email if you can't do it the other ways. Sometimes it's very helpful for my clients who live overseas. I've also even done it by WhatsApp. A lot of people in Australia uh, tend to want to do it by WhatsApp. Okay, so if you have any other questions, you got another minute or couple minutes to post them. Plain thoughts, you just said the word Tennessee, and I don't know what it was referring to. Maybe there's another thing you said that I don't see. Sometimes the chats, submissions, don't all of them don't get through. 'Cause sometimes I'll see things and I'm like, "That doesn't make sense. That's just a piece of a statement." And the other submission, didn't happen because of bandwidth or whatever it is. These doing video I've been doing, live streams was this 2022, so I've been doing live streams for 12 or 13 years. I can't remember if I started in 2009 or 2010. When I first started doing it, there was YouTube did not have them. I had to pay for a service that cost $500 a month to be able to do it this for the technology because it was so like cutting edge to do live streams. It's so weird to think about. Um, yeah. So if you have any other questions, you can go ahead and post them in there. Oh, do I assist clients in Tennessee? So I would do quick calls for someone in Tennessee and I would do trademarks, but I do not form corporations or any of that kind of stuff in any state besides or LLCs in any states besides California. I'm just doing that stuff here. Mostly, I actually used to do that in other states, but it makes me very inefficient to do all kinds of different things. So I can help the most people if I'm focused. So I'm just doing California LLCs now. Um, so for sole proprietorship to have personal first name and business, husband will go ahead first name. So one of the things you can do with a sole proprietorship, you can have a DBA. So the legal name of your business would be, Elizabeth Potts Weinstein, whatever your legal name is. Then you can have a DBA that is whatever. It's, the best mobile grooming business. I don't know. That's a terrible name, but it can be something that's not your legal name. Then you have to file the DBA in California, be with your county. And so that can be really, you don't have, the DBA does not have to have your legal name in it. Now, if you have a business name that has your legal full name or your legal last name, you don't have to get the DBA. I might actually still get it because the bank might want it to be able to put that name on your bank account because banks can just have their own rules. So okay. Yeah, so for a sole proprietorship, should you have your name be in it in the business? It really depends if you want to brand the business as you or not. Um, if it doesn't have your name in it, it can be easier to sell because someone else can just buy that business. It's something to think about from long term. But either way, if it just has your first name or if it doesn't have your name at all, you're going to need to get a DBA either way. When is my next live stream? I actually don't know. Did not have it planned. The last one I did before this was back in October. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see how many people come in and see when I hit capacity. And once I get that done, do all the quick calls that came in and all that kind of stuff, then I'll look at scheduling another live stream because then I'll know how much capacity I have. Live streams are great to do, and I very much love answering your questions, but it takes a lot of energy. So I can't do this the same day as I'm doing a whole bunch of phone calls or something. Um, so yeah, I'll let you guys know. It will get posted in the YouTube channel. It'll do one of the I'll send out posts that say when the next live stream is. And one thing is, obviously, you would want to be subscribed so you know about it. And then you can also hit the little bell thing so you can get notification when something's happening. So you'll actually find out about it. Because sometimes if you're subscribed, you don't look at your subscribe tabs and you don't see anybody's videos. Okay, so I'll ask one more question, and thanks to everybody who asked questions. From Mike, is an LLC better for a single online product business to start with? Better for regular first? Oh, so one of the things, if you're going to have a trademark and an LLC, and you want the LLC to own the trademark, you form the LLC first. I mean, forming the LLC doesn't take very long. It's like if it, every state, I think, does online filing for LLCs, so you can get that usually within days. California's a little bit behind because they just created a new system, but generally speaking, you can get that within days. And so you want to get the LLC online first before you file a trademark, so the trademark will be owned by the LLC. Now, you can assign the trademark from yourself to the LLC later, but it's just more paperwork and money. And if you're going to do both, you might as well do it in the right order. For an online product business, I think that's one of those places where, since anybody can buy the product, the only reason I wouldn't do an LLC is if you honestly do not have the money. And the only way you can get this off the ground is by doing it as a sole proprietorship. And the other reason I might not do it is if you're not quite sure if you want to have this business and this is kind of just a little experiment and you're just doing the minimal viable product kind of thing to see if this works. You throw up a website and put up things for sale and see if anyone buys it for a few weeks. That can make sense when you're testing things to see if you even want to do this, if this is a good idea. Because I very much believe in the minimal viable product, minimal viable service model where you test things out to see if it's going to work before you spend hundreds or thousands of dollars setting things up. So that's another way where, for that kind of an online business, where I would test things out first just as a sole proprietorship or partnership. Once you're going to go underway, LLCs aren't horribly expensive to set up, so it can make a lot of sense to do. So for most people, you're best off with an LLC versus a corporation because it's simpler. I do have people who want to do corporations because either they're outside the United States, so LLCs don't make any sense to them because LLCs are only here in the United States, I think, or they've all had corporations before and corporations make sense to them for that reason. But for most people, LLC is best. LLC gives you tax flexibility because you can have an LLC taxed as a sole proprietorship or partnership, or you can have LLC taxed as an S corporation or C corporation. So it's better, more flexible overall. Okay. All right. So thank you guys so much for watching today. And we are an hour and 2 minutes. So I think this might be one of my longest live streams I've ever done. I'm really happy that you guys all showed up. So, and asked a lot of really great questions. So, my next video will go up in a week from today. And otherwise, if you have any ideas for the videos you would like, go ahead and post them in the comments below and I will add them to the list. If you want to support the channel, of course, you can always sign up for the Patreon to support the channel. And then also they have like little $signy things under the videos now. So you can just send, thanks for the video kind of payment too if you want to support the channel. It's also very helpful. So thank you guys for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.